What?
With 21 yeas and 11 nays, the bill is passed and entitled.
A bill to amend it to...
The Senate will stand at ease.
If this bill were to select a specific choice type of generation or dictate where it should be developed, then this bill would be no better or worse than House Bill 6, which chose who the winners were and who the losers were. This bill is not that bill. As you have heard, and you will hear from other proponents of the bill, this is a pro-consumer bill. I will not speak to every aspect of the bill. I will limit and focus my testimony here today on the residential pro-consumer portions of the bill. I will focus my comments on two key elements of the bill. House Bill 15 is a pro-consumer bill that aims to keep, number one, electricity costs low, and two, it drives customer benefits through competition. Competitive markets saved Ohio ratepayers since 2011 $3 billion.
That'll be agreed to. Sorry. The bill is passed and entitled.
A bill to amend sections of the revised code to enact the Advanced Ohio Higher Education Act regarding the operation of state institutions of higher education.
The question is, shall the title be agreed to? Any member who would like to add their name to the title, please do so now. The title is agreed to. Bills for third consideration.
Amended Senate Bill number 9, Senator Blessing, to amend the section of the revised code to expressly incorporate changes to the Internal Revenue Code since March 15, 2023 into Ohio law and to declare an emergency.
The question is, shall the bill pass? The chair recognizes Senator Blessing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I'm sure you'll all be happy about that. Senate Bill 9 does contain an emergency clause. It's our simple annual tax conformity bill and incorporates changes to federal tax law taking effect since March 15, 2023. And it incorporates changes to the Federal Tax Relief Act of 2023. And for the purposes of Ohio, this mainly deals with taxpayers receiving payments due to the East Palestine disaster. And more importantly, this affects how Ohio's wage base, federal adjusted gross income, is calculated. So I hope we would pass this post haste. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall the emergency clause be accepted or agreed to as part of the bill?
Clerk, call the roll.
The clerk will call the roll.
Antonio? Yes. Blackshear? Yes. Blessing? Yes. Brenner? Yes. Chavez? Yes. Serino? Yes. Craig? Yes. Cutrona? Yes. DeMora? Yes. Gavarone? Yes. Hicks Hudson? Yes. Huffman? Yes. Ingram? Johnson? Yes. Kaler? Yes. Landis? Yes. Lang? Yes. Liston? Yes. Manchester? Yes. Manning? O'Brien? Yes. Patton? Patton? Yes. Reinecke? Yes. Rogner? Yes. Romanchuk? Yes. Schaefer? Yes. Smith? Yes. Timken? Yes. Weinstein? Yes. Wilkin? Yes. Wilson?
On the emergency clause, will the clerk please call the name Ingram?
Ingram?
Yes.
With 30 yeas, you can call my name.
President McCauley?
Yes. With 31 yeas and 0 nays, the emergency clause is part of the bill. The question is, shall the bill pass as an emergency measure? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Antonio. Blackshear. Blessing. Brenner. Chavez. Sereno. Craig. Catrona. Demora. Gavarone. Hicks Hudson. Huffman. Ingram. Johnson. Kaler. Landis. Lang. Liston. Manchester. O'Brien. Patton. Reinecke. Rogner. Romanchuk. Schaefer. Smith. Timken. Weinstein. Wilkin. Wilson. President McCauley.
Yes. With 31 yeas and 0 nays, the bill passes as an emergency measure and is entitled.
Bill to amend section of the revised code to expressly incorporate changes in the Internal Revenue Code since March 15, 2023 into Ohio law and declare an emergency.
The question is, shall the title be agreed to? Any member who would like to add their name to the title, please do so now. The title is agreed to. Bills for third consideration.
Senate Bill 24, Senators Johnson, Huffman, and others to enact a section of the revised code to date up the 1905 Wright Flyer, the third, as the state airplane.
The question is, shall the bill pass? The chair recognizes Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we all remember that we passed this bill last GA. It went over and bounced around over there and to ill effect. So this time, I think we have better chances of getting it passed. If you recall, this simply names a state airplane. It's something I hope we can all agree on. I think we all revel in the idea of Ohio history, including two pioneer aviators that really came up with how to do it. It was in the late 1890s, early 1900s, and we can't even imagine a world without flight. But before that, no one knew how to do it. How in the world do you create a machine that can defy gravity and carry people? Well, two bicycle guys came up with this, and they were Ohioans. Well, the Flyer that eventually became their first practical airplane was restored and preserved in the state of Ohio. It currently is in a museum near Dayton at Carolina, Ohio. It's a national monument recognized by the United States of America as a national monument. And gosh, why can't we just have that as the state airplane? And now, the state airplane, well, we got a state bird, we got state almost everything, a flower. But we don't have a state airplane. It's a little bit different, but there are other states that do have state airplanes. And my gosh, we should have it. So this idea came to me from a veteran who is also a dentist. And he's a fantastic fella, loves his country, and he would love to see this happen in the state of Ohio. And I hope if we can have the ceremony down in the Dayton area that my joint sponsor, Senator Huffman, is trying to arrange, I hope that this fellow can come over and participate in that. When we moved into the era of flight, America was, of course, the leader because we developed the idea and how to do it. But then something happened called World War I. And then we weren't involved in it at first. So other nations quickly soared ahead of us in aviation. But we had another gentleman that popped up flying not an American plane, but a French plane, I believe. And that guy was Eddie Rickenbacker. His name was Eddie Rickenbacker. He decided, like a lot of Germans at the time, to change his names to Rickenbacker. And he flew in the famous Hat in the Ring Squadron, became an ace and a pioneer in the aviation industry, another Ohioan. And just a panoply of American history where Ohioans stepped up in aviation, all due to what happened then. And then I mentioned that aviation technology began to move ahead in World War I because of conflict. very quickly America gained the upper hand, and we've had it ever since World War II. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our dominance is so great in this field that I think the last time an American ground troop was killed by enemy air forces was late in World War II. There's some debate about maybe it might have been early in Korea, but we have absolutely dominated the aerospace field. We went from that Wright Flyer that could barely fly for like 43 minutes to the SR-71 in the early 60s, which flew like a bullet at unbelievably high altitudes, that outran rockets, defied our enemies around the world. They couldn't catch it with a rocket. And it still holds the speed records to this day, all from what Wilbur and Orville did, great Ohioans. And I hope as many of you as possible can join us when we do have this celebration of the National Monument and the new state airplane. It's something we can all be proud of. Hopefully it's something we can come together on today at the end of a controversial day. I support this bill and hope you'll vote for it.
The question is, shall the bill pass? The chair recognizes Senator Huffman.
Thank you, President. I rise in support. The Wright Flyer 3 was the airplane that the Wright brothers said, this changes aviation, and that they knew that they could do it. It actually sits in Senator Blackshear's district at the Caroline Park. Dayton is truly the birthplace of the aviation because of the Wright brothers. And I'll give an abbreviated story about Aunt Shirley, who met Orville Wright in 1933, Speaker Huffman's mother. Grandpa Wyan worked for the Wright brothers and introduced Aunt Shirley. So the city of Dayton, the Miami Valley are very proud of the Wright brothers and the Wright Flyer 3, so I urge support.
Thank you. The question is, shall the bill pass? The chair recognizes Senator Weinstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was not born or raised in Ohio. The United States Air Force ordered me here, but I've gladly stayed over the years. And it was to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base that I was assigned. One of the first things my wife and I did when we moved to the Dayton area was to visit the Wright Flyer at Caroline Park. And one thing stood out at the time, and I've not forgotten it since. The propeller design on that Wright Flyer was a remarkable advancement in technology, and that's what really enabled the airplane, one of the huge things that enabled it to gain lift. And it has been over 120 years since the Wright Flyer flew, and there has been really minimal advancements that they've been able to make on propellers. It was so flawlessly designed and so perfectly crafted, and I think it's a great example of how we do things right in Ohio. So I think it's a great bill. We should have a state airplane. We are the birthplace of aviation. We need to send a shot across the bow to those North Carolinians who are trying to claim whatever they're trying to claim, and claim our place in the birthplace of flight. So I support the bill and urge my colleagues to do the same.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill pass? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Antonio? Blackshear? Blessing? Brenner? Chavez? Sereno? Craig? Catrona? DeMora? Gavarone? Hicks Hudson? Huffman? Ingram? Johnson? Kaler? Landis? Lang? Liston? O'Brien? Patton? Reinecke? Rogner? Romanchuk? Schaefer? Smith? Timken? Weinstein? Wilkin? Wilson? President McCauley?
With 30 yeas and 0 nays, the bill is passed and entitled.
A bill to enact a section of the revised code to adopt the 1905 Wright Flyer 3 as the state airplane.
The question is, shall the title be agreed to? Any member who would like to add their name to the title, please do so now. The title is agreed to. The chair recognizes Senator Lang for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that senators absent the week of Sunday, February 9, 2025, be excused so long as a written explanation is on file with the clerk pursuant to the Senate Rule 17.
The question is, shall the motion be agreed to? Without objection, the motion is agreed to. Offering of resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution Number 6, Senator Gavarone Timken, applying to the Congress of the United States for a limited national convention for the exclusive purpose of proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States to establish term limits for members of Congress.
The question is, shall the resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Senator Reineke.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Joint Resolution Number 6 be referred to the Committee on Rules and Reference.
The question is, shall the motion be agreed to? Without objection, the motion is agreed to. Message from the President.
Pursuant to Section 103.51 of the Revised Code, the President of the Senate appoints the following members to serve in the Legislative Task Force on Redistricting, Reapportionment, and Demographic Research. Senators McCauley, Antonio as co-chair, and Mr. John Barron as a public member.
Message from the House.
Mr. President, I am directed to inform you that the Speaker of the House of Representatives has signed the following concurrent resolution, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4, Senator Reineke.
Announcement of committee meetings. Chair recognizes Senator O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. President. Local Government Committee will meet at 4:20 in the North Hearing Room.
The chair recognizes Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Armed Services, Veterans Affairs, Public Safety will meet in the South Hearing Room in 10 minutes.
The chair recognizes Senator Reineke for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate, having completed its business, adjourn until Friday, February 14th at 9:30 a.m.
The question is, shall the motion be agreed to? Without objection, the motion is agreed to. The Senate is adjourned.
The standard service office, as you stated, does that take into account, I'm sure it does, take into account things like airlines miles that your constituents choose as a matter of consumer freedom to take advantage of. It also encompasses your constituents that decide, hey, you know what? I do want to give a little something back to Nationwide Children's Hospital. They do phenomenal work. They're a philanthropic organization. And so I want to be in a position that's easy on a monthly basis to give a little something extra through my electricity bill to provide a good philanthropic result for people that I'm never even going to meet. So consumers ought to have the right to make a choice. I firmly believe that, sir. Secondly, predatory.
I agree.
Thank you. Secondly, predatory. As was stated before, there are bad actors. We can look at bad actors in every industry, unfortunately. But the vast majority of businesses like NRG are good actors. And at any time there is a bad actor and they're caught, there ought to be reform and they ought to be held accountable. That's what this body and that's what the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio is doing to ensure protection, continuity, transparency, and trustworthiness in the market. I'm going to try and be funny here, so please don't take this the wrong way. A good mentor of mine once told me long ago, you can't legislate stupid. So you're going to have some bad actors, but the law is in place, elements are in place to weed out the bad actors and hold them accountable. Thirdly, let me talk about the fantastic benefits of HB 15 brought by your colleague, Representative Klopfenstein. Klopfenstein. Thank you. That provision, which says, hey, you have to competitively bid the standard service offer, would be an exclusive benefit to you, sir, to your representative, and your constituents. If you don't want to shop, Representative, that's your choice. But through increased competition, requiring the utilities to go out to the marketplace, to companies like NRG and our other competitors, to ensure that they're getting the lowest price for electricity year after year after year, that's a huge benefit to you, sir, to you, Representative, and to your constituents. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Williams, I think this. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming to testify. I hope you get home safe. And thank you for the tip about the study. I mean, I have it on my phone, and I texted to both of my colleagues while that's a technology change that we had with free market values, right? But I just wanted to talk about what was very important about this bill is whether or not the conditions of the bill currently, the provisions in it, will allow consumers to potentially save money on their bills. I have a lot of people in my district right now struggling with increased property taxes. A lot of people are struggling to put food on the table. We just went through 4 bad years of horrible economic policies in the country that drove up the cost of everything. And people want to be able to save money and keep more money in their pockets. So it's a very simple question, right? Very simple question, like you answered before. Do you believe the provisions of this bill will allow consumers to save more money because it opens the market to competition? Do you think the elimination of ESPs will allow them to save more money without having these riders put on there? And what's not in the bill is whether or not, we eliminate the ability to have these riders for supplemental transmission projects. Would that also save consumers? Does the idea in the policies proposed today, and even some that are proposed by proponents today that are in addition to the bill, do you think that will actually save consumers money in their pocketbooks and drop down the cost of their services?
My simple answer to your question is yes. Because of the provisions in House Bill 15, consumers will save money. I previously stated that it's already been proven historically that since 2011, year after year, Ohioans have saved $3 billion because of competition. The ESPs, as was stated by the OMA, which NRG is a member of, my understanding is historically those were mechanisms used when utilities own generation and would allow them an easy way to say, our turbine broke, we got to replace it. Let's not do a whole rate case. Let's just go get a rate recovery for the broken turbine at a power plant. Without generation, without the utilities owning generation anymore, the ESPs, my understanding, are being consistently used as a mechanism to avoid a rate case before the Public Utilities Commission. There is a greater amount of scrutiny. There is greater advocacy being afforded and greater transparency when a utility is required to go before the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio for a rate proceeding, greater scrutiny than simply through the ESPs. And then lastly, to transmission, yes, greater transparency, making it very clear what tariffs, if any, should be associated with transmission. That's going to save consumers money. You want to make sure that things aren't being gold-plated, per se, and more competition and more transparency around that issue will support keeping costs low for consumers.
Follow-up? Well, I agree with you 100%, and I also agree that we can't legislate out stupid, otherwise I would have introduced a bill by now. But I appreciate your testimony. I hope you get home safe. I know the weather's bad out there, so I hope you get home safe, and thank you for everything you do for Ohio and giving our customers a chance to save some money. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Representative Williams.
Thank you. Committee, is there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir, for coming today.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative Kloppenstein.
All right, our next testimony, Mr. David Perano, Ohio Energy Leadership Council. Thank you, sir. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Chair Holmes. Chair Holmes, Vice Chair Klopfenstein, Ranking Member Glassburn, and committee members. My name is David Perano. I was born in South America. And I'm a partner representing clients on energy and utility matters at the law firm of Baker and Hostetler, where I've practiced for over 20 years. My testimony today is on behalf of my client, Ohio Energy Leadership Council, as a proponent of House Bill 15. Relevant to my testimony, my practice is devoted to representing clients before the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio in rate cases and utility matters, including electric utility distribution rate cases and electric security plan cases. In fact, I spent a lot of time with my colleagues at the OCC and with Ms. Boyko at OMAG. Ms. Boyko and I were together at the Enbridge Gas Ohio rate case this morning, actually. Since October 2022, I have served as regulatory counsel to the Ohio Energy Leadership Council, known as OELC, which is the premier trade association in Ohio that represents the interests of large commercial and industrial customers in energy, utility, and rate matters. For more than 4 decades, OELC has represented energy-intensive manufacturing, industrial, institutional, educational, and retail businesses on utility matters in Ohio. Our members include steel companies, chemical processing companies, materials and equipment manufacturers, educational institutions, retail business establishments, petroleum refiners, recycling and scrap steel companies, and many other businesses across the state of Ohio. Our members collectively spend billions of dollars each year on energy and consume over 4 billion kilowatt hours each year, or the equivalent electricity usage of nearly 400,000 residential homes in Ohio. And our members are located in each 4 of the major electric utility service territories in the state. As major contributors to Ohio's economy, our members utilize their energy expertise to advocate for fair, transparent energy rates and to promote reliable and reasonable utility service.
Senator Wilkin holds.
No holds.
Thank you. Senator Serino.
No holds.
Thank you. Representative Stewart.
37, 38, 39, and 40.
Is that as a group, sir?
Yes.
37, 38, 39, and 40. Thank you. Representative Davila.
No holds.
Thank you, sir. And Representative Rader.
Yes, also 17 and 38.
Thank you. Noted. Will the secretary please call held items?
Item 17, Office of Budget and Management. Item 24, Department of Commerce. Items 37, 38, 39, and 40, Department of Development.
That's our list. Okay, sorry. I was waiting for one more. May I have a motion to approve all items not held?
So moved.
Senator Serino, and a second. Senator Ingram, any objections? Hearing none, items not held have been approved. Agency representatives for those agency may quietly and quickly exit the room. With your help. Moving on to our held items. The first item held is item number 17, Office of Budget and Management. For the record, please state your name.
My name is Christina Frass. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Budget and Management.
Hi there, I'm Abby Schaefer. I'm the Legislative Director for the Ohio Department of Commerce.
Thank you. Moving on, Senator Ingram, questions?
Yeah, first of all, just to ask a question, the approval of this item is essentially making decisions for future.
Yeah.
It's making decisions for future legislators. And I've heard over these last 6, 7 years that I've been here that we don't like doing those kinds of things. My real concern is that this agreement that we have has 13 years left on it. And that will be for an additional 15 years, which would take us into 2050 something. And I'm not real sure of the urgency, and so that concerns me. So why are we here? Why does it have to be done now?
President Schuler, Senator Ingram, now is an appropriate time for the extension. Economic development projects are getting more expensive. The Extending the franchise helps ensure JobsOhio's long-term financial viability. JobsOhio, the General Assembly recently enacted mega project legislation that allows up to 30-year agreements for very large economic development opportunities. The companies that JobsOhio works with need certainty knowing that JobsOhio will be in existence and funded during the duration of those agreements. So for that reason, JobsOhio uses the liquor profits to sell bonds that then fund economic development opportunities, and those bonds are financed over a long period of time. This will enable them to continue that practice.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, thank you for that. I get it. You started out with the fact that development is very expensive. Yes, it is. And this, of course, takes a financial liability, which you already have. But I get it that if you need to be 30, 40 years out to give a 30 or 40-year tax credit or abatement, or we do those kind of things. Except that, how many of those do you have that are already 30 years out? And when were they put in? Because you've already been in this is already, what, 12 years we're in? So when were they in that they're in for 30 years? I don't think you could do that for that long.
President Schuler, to Senator Ingram, JobsOhio makes economic development incentives every year that extend for certain periods of time. So it is not that they entered into agreements in 2013 and now they are expiring. It is an ongoing every year program.
I do realize that. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Serino.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for coming in today. So I want to just kind of key off of what Senator Ingram was just asking you. This is a timing issue relative to what JobsOhio is looking to do in terms of what their mission is, right? And they've provided great things for the state of Ohio. We have bigger developments coming. And so this is the extension is strictly related to the timing of long-term financing that is going to be happening that you will help facilitate in your department, right?
President Schuler, Senator Serino, that's correct. This is an extension of the existing contract. No terms or conditions are changing. It is simply an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Rader.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. First question, actually, it was your office that provided this sheet. It's helpful to know. I'm sure this is the last page, figure 1 of the actual agreement, which provides the base franchise profits fiscal year 25 through 2053. Is that correct?
Yes. President Schuler to
Please.
Representative, yes.
Quick follow-up. So what mechanism did you, or what formula did you use to generate these numbers? Just curious.
President Schuler, through the representative, the base, I think what you're referring to is the table of the base profits.
Correct.
So when it was established in 2013, they took the 2012 actual profits of the liquor enterprise and applied a 3% inflation each year.
Got it.
So that is the formula for the base franchise amount that JobsOhio will receive.
I appreciate
Follow-up?
that. Yes, real quick. So looking back the last 10 years, I went through some of the documents that JobsOhio provides on their finances. It looks like the last 10 years there's been a 6.7 actually, more than a 6.5% increase in liquor tax revenues. Just wondering why you would use 3% when the historic difference has been 6.5. And it's a pretty big deal because from 2039 to 2053, according to your numbers, so that's a $10 billion contract that we're being asked to extend from that period. If you use that 6.5% or 6.7% rather, you actually get $22 billion. It's a pretty big giveaway, right, to this for-profit, nonprofit, whatever it is, this quasi-profit agency that's working on behalf of the state government to do our economic development. So just want to get some clarity about how these numbers are generated, because I think that's important. I think it's really important for our taxpayers to understand what this is actually going to cost us.
Yes. President Schuler, to the representative. Thank you for the question. The agreement includes the base profit amount that JobsOhio keeps. So if the liquor profits generate the amount of the base profit, JobsOhio keeps that amount and can use that for their operating expenses and economic development packages. Any profit above that amount by the contract, by the agreement, is split with 75% coming to the state, and JobsOhio keeps 25% of it. So that is a revenue sharing agreement whereby the state benefits 75%, which in recent years amounts to about $90 million a year that comes to the state that goes to the GRF.
Right, out of that 1.7-ish billion, correct? That is the total revenues from the...
I'm sorry, I missed the first
Oh, I'm sorry, out of that 1.7 billion that is used, that is generated every year from the liquor revenue.
President Schuler, to the representative, the base profit amount is calculated each year.
Right.
So if the amount exceeds, if the profit exceeds the amount in the contract that is listed in the table for any given year, the amount above that gets split 75% to the state, 25% to JobsOhio.
Thank you for that clarification. One more question, if I may. Thank you, Madam President, and through the President. You mentioned, I think as a response to Senator Ingram, that JobsOhio's goal is to really make our state competitive by bringing big businesses to our state. I know they have worked with a lot of big businesses here. However, since JobsOhio has been in existence since 2013, our state hasn't been as competitive with some of our neighboring states. In fact, we've been behind the national average. So I'm questioning the efficacy, really, of this organization. And how good of a deal is it really for Ohio when we're behind on growth, as promised, and places like Michigan, Indiana, Pennsylvania have been ahead of us? And there's really no transparency or accountability mechanism built into this, right? So there's a lot of self-reporting I see that JobsOhio does, but does this contract prohibit the state legislature at all from creating more specific guidelines through legislation to create more accountability for JobsOhio in the future?
President Schuler, to the representative, yes. I'm not an attorney and I will not opine on,
Sure.
on what the General Assembly can or cannot do with JobsOhio. What I can tell you is that in January of 2022, JobsOhio engaged Implan, which is a leading provider of economic impact data, to conduct analysis of, to quantify JobsOhio's impact on Ohio's economy based on projects completed from 2011 to 2021. What it found was the direct impact of more than 240,000 jobs and $14.6 billion in new payroll associated with JobsOhio projects. More than 40,000 construction jobs were associated with JobsOhio projects, which means that roughly 1 in every 8 construction jobs around the state are associated with Ohio Jobs projects. JobsOhio projects.
Got it.
The cost-benefit analysis showed that for every $1 invested in JobsOhio economic development incentives, up to $17 of additional tax revenues are generated for the state. In the 5 years since that study, JobsOhio has seen major increases in activity. When comparing activity from 2019 to 2023 to the previous 5 years, the number of projects is up 47%, from 1,467 to 2,155. The number of new jobs is up 14%, from 110,712 to 126,517. The amount of new payroll is up 27%, from $5.25 billion to $6.6 billion. The value of new capital investment is up 85%, from $36 billion to $67 billion. Ohio's economy is the 8th most diverse in the nation, and only one of 3 states whose industrial diversity has improved each year since 2012. These results are directly aligned with JobsOhio's focus on building key sectors of our economy. Ohio is the only state in the U.S. to rank in the top 5 in total economic development projects and projects per capita since 2019. This success did not occur in our state prior to the creation of JobsOhio. For the first time ever, Ohio has achieved 3 AAA ratings from top 3 credit rating agencies due to our strong financial management, the economic resiliency demonstrated during the following and most recent economic downturn, which is directly attributable to our diversified economy, and the demonstrated job growth. These data were presented to our credit rating agencies, and the rating upgrades are an external, independent validation of Ohio's growth.
Additional questions? Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your time today. There's already been some good questions about kind of looking forward and what this means that JobsOhio can do moving forward. I want to look backward a little bit. It's been my understanding, these incentive agreements are between JobsOhio and the recipient. So let's say 5 years ago, JobsOhio entered into a 30-year abatement, which they're legally allowed to do. And that abatement includes a term that, benchmarks for the company to meet. You got to employ so many people, you have to have this much odd payroll, whatever those criteria may be. And there are clawbacks in these agreements that JobsOhio is the one who is empowered through the contract to enforce. So if a company got a award 5 years ago, and they know that it's a 30-year obligation, and they know that JobsOhio is going to end in 10 to 15 years, then they know effectively that they only got to wait out, JobsOhio for 10 to 15 years, and then they're essentially off the hook, the obligation, the 30-year obligation they already agreed to. Am I in the ballpark here?
President Schuler, to the representative, I think that's correct. I think it goes to, the financing extending through the life of these projects and the certainty that JobsOhio will be there through the life of these projects is important to their completion.
Additional question? No.
Could I have one more? Unless he has a follow-up, I'm sorry.
No. Representative Davila, did you have a question? Go ahead. We'll get back to you, Representative.
Thanks. So let's do a little history lesson as well as a prospective look. So I think I'm the only member of this panel who was actually here when House Bill 1 was passed back in 2011. And at the time, the significant argument that was put by the governor and by the proponents at that point was competition. So I'm a big proponent for the states being laboratories for democracy, and in this case for economic development. Talk a little bit about what the competition scenario or environment is today with other states. In terms of these types of economic development engines or the lack thereof, to sort of underscore the importance of this extension at this point in time.
Sure. So, President Schuler, through the representative, Ohio is currently competing for over 10 additional mega projects in addition to, the intel and the recent announcements. So extending the liquor franchise does ensure that Ohio can continue to be competitive for these opportunities. I want to point out that JobsOhio is not just limited to these big projects. JobsOhio has completed projects in all 88 counties and is, proud to support projects large and small. Two examples of smaller projects that weren't these mega projects are the Nestle Purina project in Claremont County, which generated 300 new high-quality jobs and bring $500 million investment to the community. JobsOhio also supported Battle Motors investment in Tuscarawas County, which will feature over 430 jobs in the highly strategic EV manufacturing sector. So it's really important, not just for the mega projects, but also for the smaller projects in all areas of the state.
Follow-up. Representative Rader.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for taking our questions, too. Recently we've heard from the Attorney General, I know is communicating with your office as well as JobsOhio, on particularly the $1.41 billion that the JobsOhio had paid in some form in the beginning for this contract. And he had suggested, and it seemed like a good idea to me and some of us, that this additional contract should be similar in that there should be some type of lump sum payment paid to the state. Can you address that? I know you did issue a response to the Attorney General, but as we're here sitting here, why is that not a good idea, and why shouldn't the state be seeking a similar payment?
Sure. President Schuler, to the representative, the initial upfront payment when the funding mechanism shifted to JobsOhio was intended to do a couple of things. First, there were outstanding bonds that the state issued with promised liquor profits to cover those bonds. So part of the amount that JobsOhio paid was defeasing the outstanding bonds that were promised to be backed with liquor profits. That was a good portion of what JobsOhio paid in order to then take the liquor franchise and get the revenue from that. There was an additional amount that covered the expenses from the transaction, closing payments, and in addition to about $100 million for Clean Ohio revitalization projects that were already appropriated by the General Assembly, but bonds had not been sold for them yet, that were intended to be covered with liquor profits.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Moving on. Any objections to the item?
Object.
Objections noted. The item is approved. Thank you, Ms. Frass. Moving on to item number 24, the Department of Commerce.
Hi, Abby Schaefer, Legislative Director, Department of Commerce.
Senator Ingram. Oh, your mic.
I keep forgetting I have to touch this thing. I actually am just asking because I know that you have the medical marijuana and then, of course, the recreational marijuana. What do we need those dollars for now for 2025? Let me know what the plan is.
Through the chair to the senator, this $2.9 million is for, we never went, after issue 2 was passed, our budget was just for the medical program to be whole. In November of 23, as everyone knows, issue 2 passed, and that completely changed the budget for the Division of Cannabis Control, created the Division of Cannabis Control, and they are essentially operating double the responsibilities. They have approximately they've seen a 63% increase in dispensary transactions from last January. So everything from compliance to legal work to you name it, licensing has doubled for this division.
Follow up.
Thank you, Madam President. Is there any way that I can get that information from you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I will pass that along to the chair and give it to
the
you.
chair.
Follow up noted. Thank you. Additional questions for the witness? Hearing none. Any objections to the item? Here, you have a question? I'm sorry. Representative Stewart.
You're quick. I
I
got
was
to get
quick.
used to that. I'm a little more leisurely in my committee. 2.9 million. I think our staff has reached out, and it's at least been relayed to me that the block description says part of that's for staff. We got information that hiring 35 additional staff. I've been in government long enough to know that staff plus benefits plus everything else, I'm having a hard time seeing how we get 35 people with $650,000. Is that just part of the cost? Is that a few of those 35? Just trying to get a sense of how much of this is for staff, and are we going to be back here again needing more for these staff members here in the near future?
Through the chair to the representative, the Division of Cannabis Control, when it was created, had originally 26 staff members. They now have 45. Back in June of last year, we predicted that we would need double the staff of approximately 35. We've hired 19, and we're looking to hire 16 more. We are non-GRF, so we have to sustain ourselves. We don't rely on others, the GRF, for our budget. So we do have to sustain that. We will not come back this year for this because for this upcoming budget, we will already have budgeted for this staff. And a lot of this is compliance staff because you are seeing an increase of people purchasing this product and using this product. It's no longer over 100,000 patients that are using this product. Anybody over the age of 21 can consume this product now.
Follow up. Further questions? Seeing none. Any objections to the item? Hearing none. The item is approved. Thank you. Moving on, we will be calling up the Department of Development as a group. Let's start with the whole group, 37 through 40.
Good afternoon.
Representative Stewart.
Sorry. Tara Morrell with the Ohio Department of Development.
Thank you, Madam President. One question, I'll get pretty quick to the point. Almost 2 years ago, we voted to create the All Ohio Future Fund. It was kind of the signature big ticket item in the governor's budget. We, approved that overwhelmingly. To my understanding, looking at press releases, we've so far approved one project in almost 2 years. Today, we're going to authorize approving essentially 4 more projects, but again, my back of the napkin math says this is about $106 million total out of 750. It looks like we are not going to be anywhere near close to spending the initial round of money before we pass our next state budget. Just broad strokes, what's taken so long, and when can we expect that this is going to get into the community? Because this was kind of pitched as let's have government move at the speed of business and get this into our communities. It doesn't seem like we're getting that done very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the chair to the representative, thank you for the question. I would say that the program, obviously it took a little bit of time to get stood up. And then also our team goes through a very thorough due diligence process, making sure that these projects meet all of the eligibility requirements and everything that goes along with the program. I will say that, yes, these will be, I think, a total of 5 total projects that we will, if these go through, we'll have approved so far in the All Ohio Future Fund. But I will say we also have a total of what we've received proposals so far has been 46. And so there is over $1 billion in requests that our office has received. So there's certainly, a need, and there's definitely projects in the pipeline that I know our team is working towards kind of bringing to fruition. So we are, absolutely working to try and get these dollars out as quickly as possible.
Follow up. I understand that there is a process of eligibility that's being imposed. I remember the statute, though, the legislature didn't put those requirements in there. And I understand, usually we defer to an agency to come up with regulations to make things move more quickly, not so they move more slowly. And I guess I would just say before we, do another vote like this again, if leaving it general is going to make the program go slower, I think we're going to be a little bit more diligent about making sure we say very specifically how this money gets out, because it seems like it's the regs that are holding up this program, not the legislation.
Additional? Representative Rader.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for being here. This is specifically on item 38. This is the $86 million from the All Ohio Future Fund, we just spoke about, to Pickaway County Port Authority to assist in financing the construction of a water waste sewer extension. Just was curious, is this due to the massive development project that's the weapons manufacturer Andril? Is it related to that project?
Through the chair to the representative, yes. So the total request you see in item number 38 here is for $86 million. $70 million of this request is going to support the Andril site. And then the remaining $16 million will be to support an additional adjacent site.
Yeah, understanding what this fund does and what it's for, just for my clarification, I know that we've had some delays in some of these other large projects like Intel, and there's a lot of discussion about utility interconnection, who's paying for that when it comes to these big data centers coming in. I'm more of an electricity guy, not so much a water guy. But, what are the sort of criteria used to understand when to use this money and when it's wise to sort of wait and see about these developments? This is a lot of public money going to a private development, so we just want to get a sense. And I understand the fund, I understand what it's for, but I do want to get a better sense of when we decide to pull the trigger on this, because we're seeing these projects delayed. Fortunately, we haven't seen any big projects like that pull out, but heaven forbid that happens. It's a lot of money. So please, if you wouldn't mind filling me in a bit.
Absolutely. If I may phone a friend here, Eric Linder with our Strategic Investments Division, who oversees the program.
Through the President, Representative. So some of the reason for the timeline for this program and the awarding sort of deals with that issue, right? And so wanting to make sure we have good quality projects, trying to balance at times having an end user in place that we know that's going to move forward with a project and utilize the utilities and water and wastewater that we're putting in place so that it doesn't get put into the ground and go unused for an extended period of time. So there's a lot of validation in that. We work with our partners at EPA and ODOT to verify that these are good projects, and they're going to create good economic growth here in the state.
Additional questions? Any objections to the group of items being approved? Hearing none, these items are approved. Thank you. With no further business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Senator Wilkin and a second by Senator Sarita. Thank you. We are adjourned.